Welcome, everyone. We are going to just take one moment to let participants filter in. We had over 200 registrants for this webinar, which kind of goes to show that people are interested in what we've got to talk about, or they're just really excited to learn from Jeff and Allison, because we all know you're not here to see me. So people are going to filter in. I think we were just remarking before this how we are all in dramatically different places. Jeff is comfortably at home. Allison is in a loud fanned office. Fortunately, we can't hear the fan. And I am in a Nashville, Tennessee hotel room. I can promise this is not the wallpaper I would choose if I was at home right now. But why don't we jump right in? If you have read a media operator for long enough, you know how often we talk about audience data. If I'm ever struggling to figure out what to write about for an issue of AMO, I'll ask my partner Victoria and she'll say, let me guess, first party data again? So we have a fun way of trolling in my household, I guess. But that is why I am so looking forward to this webinar, because for the next 40 minutes, we're going to be talking all about data, and more specifically, intent data that can have a massive, massive impact on your revenue potential. And I am joined by two unbelievable operators to talk about this. Allison Williams from Forbes and Jeff Porzio from the Channel Company. Allison, Jeff, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Same, thank you.
All right, so it's gonna be a lot of fun, but before we jump in, special thanks to Bombora for making this webinar possible. As the true B2B data pioneer, Bombora connects the B2B ecosystem in a one-of-a-kind data cooperative, enabling a holistic view of an account's research and consumption behavior. From this data, Bombora derives actionable insights that allow publishers to develop audiences, deepen engagement, and accelerate monetization of first-party data. For example, Bombora helps publishers understand audience content consumption, build and enrich first-party audiences, and measure and visualize audience campaign performance. If you're a publisher, head over to bombora.com to learn more. Some housekeeping rules. Q&A is turned on for this. If, as we are talking, there are things you want clarity on, ask them and I will attempt to get them all answered. But like I said, data is something I like to nerd out on, so you're going to have to muscle your way in on me to get those questions answered. Now, without further ado, let's jump in. So I want to start at a high level because, when we talk about data, when we talk about intent data, different organizations might have different definitions. So in each of your businesses, how do you define intent data? Is it primarily third-party information, or are there also first-party frameworks that you're working with? Why don't we start with you, Allison?
Sure, yeah. And again, thank you, Jacob, for having me, and Jeff, I'm excited for our conversation too. So for us, intent data is sort of what you said. It's a balance of both first party and working with outside vendors. So we, years ago, probably 2018, 2019 at this point, built our first party platform, started building our first party platform, Forbes One. And we use that to identify intent across our site. We bucket our audiences by looking at the content that they're consuming, engaging with. We rank that, and we can, then put those in intent buckets based on our content categories across our site. We then also have partnerships specifically with Bombora that we use for B2B intent data. So that's really looking more at, on a company level, what topics or even products are different companies showing different levels of intent for, and how does that change? How does that rank? And we can look at that both on our site individually and then across all of the data within Bombora's co-op, all the publishers within their co-op.
Jeff, what about you guys?
Not at the Channel Company. We look at it not very much unlike how Allison is doing it at a Forbes. As a kind of a unique company, and with very distinct lines of business, where we have a media side of our line of business that contains our global a portfolio of global sites, and agency line of business. We use it the same way. I think for us, the biggest benefit of being in the co-op is like that universal taxonomy. So prior to joining the co-op, just like they did at Forbes, we were looking at our own intent data based upon our own content that we made available out there, and to be able to unify that with a single taxonomy, that has given us the ability to kind of merge the two uses of intent data, one targeting an external audience, and two targeting an internal audience with the same taxonomy, the same structure, the same nomenclature. It's been a big advantage.
So V1 was you defined your own taxonomy, but then once you started working with Bombora, you sort of scrapped that one and just rolled the Bombora taxonomy across your first party intent and third party?
I wouldn't say we scrapped it. I would say that we merged it. We still have platforms in place. We're still reporting on sponsors, the sponsors that sponsor a lot of our content. Like for instance, crn.com is our largest site from a traffic volume standpoint. We're still measuring it independently and within the taxonomy of Bombora.
So I want to talk about the evolution of this data becoming like an important part of your strategy. But before we do that, can we just talk fundamentally, how are you, like, where in the business are you using it, right? Like what types is it? Like, is it just sponsorships? Is it advertising? Where are you using this intent data to grow your revenue?
For us, it's across the board. It's within our media and communities line of business, where we have fully integrated intent data to the point where we can serve ad messaging based upon intent levels of the audience coming to our site, which is extremely valuable, obviously, to our sponsors and advertisers on those sites. And then on our agency line of business, where we're talking to buyers around the world, to use that data for better targeting, for syncing with the right messaging based upon intent levels. We use that there too. But like I said, having this single taxonomy has been a big differentiator for us.
Cool. All right. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Allison.
No, that's all right. I was going to say, similarly, we're using intent data and data in general in a lot of ways. I think when we view data, we try to, and specifically when we built our Forbes One product, we really wanted that to be something that was not an advertising specific product, but that worked across our whole business. So when we have different data sets, we're really trying to use them not just for marketing and advertising, but for our editorial team to be informed by those insights, for our contributor network to be informed by those insights, for our product team to be informed by those insights. We're starting to create a lot of different kind of cohorts. We're looking at lifetime value. So we're taking all different types of data, and we try to make sure that we're not just speaking an advertising language, but that we're speaking a language across our full business. Now, not all of them have been integrated into the full business yet. And I think specifically when we're talking about, like some of that co-op data, that right now is just specifically for advertising and marketing, but there's so much use case outside of that. And that's really when we're talking about a data source, we want it to eventually inform everything, so that we can all see the same type of insights.
Since I've got you, Allison, can you walk us through how you're integrating those intent signals into the branded content business specifically?
Yes. So we work really closely with that intent data when it comes to branded content. We sort of have split it into pre-sale and post-sale. Pre-sale, we take that advertiser's target, we look at what their goal is, and we can use intent data to understand, to tell the story of what their audience is doing on our site, where their audience is at, what kind of content they're consuming. And then post-sale, we kind of try to retell that in the same way to say we've actually hit their target. So we're targeting the promotions for the branded content towards an intent audience. And maybe a good example of that would be if we know that someone's interested in a certain type of software, we can pull intent for that type of software. When we're trying to sell the campaign, we can say, look, we have, this % of those in market for this software. They're consuming content about this really niche set of topics. this is what we'd recommend you write your branded content about. This is, how we're going to target them. So then after they run the content, we try to use those same things to tell the story of how we reached that audience. So it's all kind of like tying it back together. We want to pull the same data and understand the companies that visited the content, what they're most interested in, how we can upsell them, how we can move them from one stage of the funnel to the next. And that's kind of all fueled by that intent data.
So can we like come up with a scenario here? So if I'm an advertiser and I come to you,
Yep.
how would your sales team kind of pitch branded content to me using that intent data, right? Like walk me through like from signal to execution, how that sort of plays out.
Sure. Yeah. So you're coming to us, you're trying to, promote your software. We're going to tell you, first, we're going to try to sell you on the fact that we have those users who are actively looking to buy new HR software or whatever it may be. So we use the intent data to show the companies who are actively looking for that, show what they're doing on Forbes. You believe us. You love it. You've never seen something better in your life, so you buy it.
Please take all my money, take it all right now.
Exactly. You give us everything you have. Then we execute it. During the targeting phase, we can target the company. We can pull a list of companies that are actively researching. We will target that list dynamically with your content and maybe we'll target, working with you, the buying committees there, the C-suites there, the IT decision makers, the HR decision makers. But we will target that audience. Your content will run. Then we'll put together a really thorough wrap-up report. In that wrap-up report, we're going to show you what companies we reached, what exactly within HR software are they most interested in. Did any of them start off in the early research stage and move into active? Did any of them move into in-market? We can show all of that. So it really kind of tells that story of what the impact of our campaign was and who you reached.
What are some unexpected insights that you've gleaned, from that intent data that has changed how you've executed your branded content strategy, Allison?
Yep. We're all storytellers, right? So I think the level of storytelling that we've been able to do has gone up quite a bit because the taxonomy is so niche. So, we have one example of a large software company that was a longtime partner with us, and they recently asked kind of like what we can show across the lifetime of our partnership, which normally we're not necessarily looking at the full lifetime. We'll look at a quarter or a year or whatever. So we were able to look at the intent for their products around the lifetime and really show that we have increased the in-market audience, the interest in their products, move people from different stages of the funnel through that actual campaign. I think that was a really interesting way to use that data and to show that like your years of partnership with us have resulted in something really positive.
Jeff, let's turn to you. When we were chatting ahead of time, you mentioned that AI is playing a role in enhancing your intent data. Can you talk us through how that it's working?
Yeah, it's very AI has been a kind of a game changer for us as well as pretty much everybody. That's all we're talking about all day. It feels like AI, but
Wouldn't be a webinar without AI, would it?
right? I definitely think about it at least 10 hours out of every day. For us, especially in our agency line of business, a particular challenge for us as a company that's typically promoting products and services that are high consideration products and services. We need to use AI in addition to intent data to not only inform, nurture for the leads that we generate, but also to surround the buying committees that are usually part of that purchase. In fact, pretty much everything that we might market as a dedicated B2B tech agency or focused agency has some sort of buying committee all the way from the C-level, sometimes down to manager level. So using AI along with intent data allows us to build nurture campaigns at a scale that was unprecedented 10 years ago, where you had to have humans creating surround sound nurture. Now we can get even wider and deeper. We call it hyper personalization, where we can begin to talk to each lead on their individual basis. And with how intent data falls into that is things like index levels, right? Which we pay a lot of attention to, which AI is really good at looking at patterns to see, much like Allison, where we could see the lift that a campaign might have had. We can use that in conjunction with AI to find out where somebody or a committee might be in that purchase cycle. At what point are they just starting to research and define the needs, or are they past consideration and one of our clients is in the consideration set for for a potential RFP or a request for a personalized demo? So AI allows us to really build an infinite volume of content messages against an infinite volume of variables at play.
And so what sort of new client opportunities have you been able to create because of this blend? Like, is it new ad products? Is it new, like, what are the opportunities that you're taking to market with that?
For us, like specifically around the nurture side of things, I mean, it has taken what we've offered historically as a nurture package and amplified it like tremendously, like at a scale that again is unprecedented. So whereas a decade ago we would be nurturing with it used to be that personalization meant insert first name, insert company name, and then maybe insert value prop, right? Now with AI and what AI has done for us to revolutionize our nurture offerings, now we can get into variables that are specific to industry, industry plus company size, the questions that have been answered as inputs for our leads. So with all of those variables that are available to us, plus AI, our nurture packages are like, again, you really can't compare the two because of how what AI has done there. And I should say too that not only has it expanded our capabilities, for nurture programs, but it's also kept the cost in check, right? So by using smart technology, by using data that's existed, we've been using intent data at the channel company since it's been around. So with all those the data that's currently available to us plus AI, we can keep our costs down to our clients so that we can get more participation from them with smarter nurture programs that look for that mutual benefit. Like we're going to be measured against the quality of leads that we deliver to our clients. So we have a vested interest with our clients to make sure that we're surrounding them with smart nurture that works.
So you both sort of talked a little bit about this, like the after campaign, brand awareness beforehand, awareness afterwards. Is that the Bombora data in part that you're gleaning from, where like, you say all these readers are interested in HR software, and then they see a piece of branded content focused because using that intent data, and then you can see afterwards with those Bombora signals that those readers now are more aware of your particular HR software. Is that the use case that we're talking about from pre to post?
Yeah, for us, yes. I mean, one other dynamic that I might throw out there for the channel company is that we have a very robust events team, an events offering that's global, where we host our own events. And so with that pre and post, we can also show increase in either sentiment or intent around sponsors from these particular events. So we could take baseline intent scores against our attendees for our events, and we can report back to those sponsors around the lift that our events and their sponsorship has kind of produced, as it relates to demand, which to our clients that are sponsoring these events is perfect, right? Because it used to be like you didn't know how to quantify or measure like how sponsoring this particular event went. Now we can again in that Bambora taxonomy, now we can report back to them to show the impact, which obviously helps our sales effort, but for our clients, they can justify and show in a material form the impact that their marketing choice has made.
Yeah, and similarly for us, Jacob, that you nailed it. We're using Bambora as well as our first party Forbes One platform to provide those insights. And I think Bambora specifically is giving us the domains and then associating those domains with their different levels of interest in HR software or whatever the topic may be.
And have you both seen, when it comes to the renewal, have you seen, like, is there a difference in renewal between partners that take advantage of some of your more intent-based sponsorship products versus those that don't? Like, are they coming back more because they're getting better results?
I don't know that we've compared renewal rates, but I know that, I mean, kind of just like colloquially, I know that our sales teams are much more satisfied with the decks that include this versus the decks that don't. And I've had a ton of really positive feedback. I think from a B2B perspective, there's really no other way to get this detailed and to be able to provide, not just we hit X% of C-levels, but also that we hit actual buying committees in market for your product or your competitor's product. That is so powerful.
For us, again, similar to Allison, for us, we don't have a measurement to see what renewal rates are with when it comes to like intent data, really because we are intent by default. Like intent has become best practice, right? And so yes, we talk about it, yes, we report on it, a lot of cases, but with the channel company, there is no non-intent offering that we have, so it's fundamentally built into everything that we do. So the renewals that we see, or the sales success that we see, sure, it could be attributed to intent as an ingredient. I mean, there's no mistaking that campaigns that are aligned with intent data perform better, but we don't have anything that excludes intent data to do a alpha and beta. And I think that's the state of the market and how important and critical intent data is to any marketing campaign.
Yeah, and I'll also add, Jacob, I do think that intent data is super valuable when it comes to upselling and to kind of figuring out that next campaign and what are you going to do with it, because it sort of gives you this built-in target already of like what you want to do. Like, okay, you've moved these people from here to here. How do we take them one step further? We can build that campaign out for you. So I think that's a really valuable use case for it as well.
That's sort of the nurture campaign you talked about, right, Jeff?
Yes, yeah. Upsell and nurture is a big component of it. When you can quantify to a client, which we do, that our campaigns show not only lift even from a brand awareness standpoint, but an increase in intent indexing, that just, it becomes kind of a no-brainer that of course you're going to extend it. Of course, you're going to continue the conversation with leads and the brands that you're interacting with. Purchase cycles don't run in, nice little quarterly or 8-week, campaigns. They're ongoing. So to be able to look at those results, bring intent into those results and report on it, the upsell, the cross-sell possibilities, as Allison said, are they become no-brainers and must-haves for clients, for us.
So if we think about this more organizationally, obviously you both understand this intuitively, you care about this data and all that. How are your sales teams talking about this to their clients? When they go out, how do they explain to the prospective partners the value of this data? Do you find yourself getting pulled into sales meetings regularly? Like, I'm just curious how the sales teams handle this.
You
Start
want
with
you
you,
want to go
Allison.
first, Allison?
It's up to you.
You're on the top of my screen, so we'll have you go first.
Who,
Sure.
me? Oh, Allison. All right, go ahead, Allison.
Okay. Yeah, no, we've been working with Bombora with intent data for quite a while. So it's been in kind of our lexicon for quite some time. This is part of a much larger suite of products that we're offering. So we want it to fit into our team's overall sales strategy. I mean, my team has experts in this data, and they're the ones that I think will field. I mean, a lot of it now is via email, the individual questions of like, how do I interpret this? How would I say this? We'll do regular trainings with the team that sort of explain how the language they can use, the way that we can make it tailored to different levels of understanding data for clients, for agencies, because I think there are, different levels of it. So we work really closely with them on it. I mean, if something ever got super niche, we're always happy to hop on a call and walk the team through it, walk an agency through it. But it can be really complicated. So we do try to emphasize, making the language simple enough, having it fit into our overall narrative, and making sure that people can really understand it, because if it gets too complicated, I think the team just won't use it, and we don't want that.
For us, again, similar to Allison and Forbes, but intent data is not new to us. We were using it before we joined the co-op, even using Bombora data before we joined the co-op. So it's, even when you look at like our targeting criteria documentation, intent data has always been there, right? So it's a key part of our targeting strategies. I think for our sales effort, like the real change that intent data as kind of helped spur is how we use intent data as an input to AI. That's been the big kind of shift for us. So we find that that our clients are generally aware of intent data because of how prominent it is in the B2B space, right? So we don't put a lot of attention on it, that, oh, you're now featuring intent data. Well, we've always featured intent data, but now the conversations have shifted to, well, with all this like insanely valuable data, how can you use it outside of just targeting? How can you use it to shift, and inform dynamic messaging? Like I said, nurture. The shifts of the changes in index from week to week, right? It's like a stock market. For those that might not be familiar with intent data, it changes all the time. So that's where a lot of our sales conversations are focused, is how we can use AI to respond to those shifts and those changes and those expansions and that growth.
I love that, Jeff. I think that's really smart. And I think, to your point, we also are seeing a lot of use from it currently with our branded content partners, and hopefully we'll be able to expand this soon. But in digging into the trends of topics and how that changes, like, I think, I mean, a really easy one is looking at how taxes have been more heavily researched in the past quarter versus the 1 year before that.
Shocking, Allison.
Why would that be?
Yeah, right.
But diving into a specific topic, I think most recently we looked into finance and understanding, like, transactions and payments. There's less interest in, or I think it was more interest in, but ESG, there was less interest in. And how can we kind of incorporate that level of data into the content that our partners are being created? Because they'll come to us and say, well, what do people want to read about? And we want to be able to help them with that narrative.
Years ago, I interviewed Sean Griffey, who is the founder and former CEO of Industry Dive, and he said it's only publishers that can tell a prospective partner what people care about, create that content for them, and distribute that content. And it sounds as if, you can, in pretty quick form, help your partners shift their message from, when we interviewed, it was during the middle of the pandemic. He said, I can tell almost immediately when CFOs stopped caring about COVID and started caring about return to office. And he was able to see that almost to the week and be able to say to his branded content team could say to partners, all right, let's stop pushing the COVID trend. Let's start pushing the return to office, because that's what people care about now. Is that sort of how you guys are using it too?
Yeah, just to jump in, to that point, Jacob, in the world of the channel company, a lot of the products and services and technologies that we promote are like riddled in semantics, right? So where that type of intent data can inform us around the language that we use. So we market a lot of things that kind of all rhyme with each other, right? Like cloud migration, digital transformation, data modernization, right? They're all like Venn diagrams that all kind of share or and sometimes are misused when thinking about something else. So looking at those topics, mapping the growth or the decline of those particular things can help shape what we call things, or the value statements that we put behind the content that we create. Are we talking about digital transformation, or are we talking about cloud migration? Well, this cohort of prospects, are talking about it this way. So we can shift, and sometimes it's just the difference of titling it in a different way that's informed by intent data, informed by content consumption, whether it's first party or third party for us. And just that change of title can impact conversion rates and download rates. It's really amazing. So that definitely identifies topics that we create content in, but sometimes just what we take existing content and how we might either repackage it or reposition it based upon the demand and the intent that's out there.
We got a viewer question for you, Jeff. You had made a note on proving the effect of live event sponsorships using intent data. Can you speak a little bit more to how the live events are connected to the Bombora intent signals? For example, is it based on viewership of the live events websites, or loading event attendee lists into Bombora to include that as one input into a company's intent? Like, how are you using that intent data with your live events?
Yeah, so specifically with live events, we can see through the use of intent data, prospective sponsors of those events, so that our internal sales operations, our event sales operations, can get more tactical about who they're approaching to promote event sponsorships opportunities, right? So seeing that, who offers services and products that are not only relevant to the theme of the event itself, but also the attendees of that particular event. And then on the tail side, in fact, we just ran one recently for one of our exchange events, which is the signature event where we have them all around the globe. That again, we took our sponsors, right? An important distinction here is that for us at the channel company, a lot of our clients, a lot of our vendors, a lot of our partners, their company names or their product names are intent topics in of themselves, right? So yes, we got plenty of HR software or cloud cloud monitoring or application performance monitoring. But we also have the brands that we work with that are so prominent that they're intent topics themselves. So we can show post-event, any impact that the attendees have in terms of intent towards those individual brands, as well as the topics or the solutions that their products provide. And I think that's an important distinction. And I don't think a lot of people like inherently think of that. They think of intent topics as just topics and themes. They don't realize that, individual brands and the product names are topics in of themselves oftentimes, and we can measure that. We can tell you how many people, or how many people might be looking for a specific partner's cloud monitoring solution. And that's really impactful both on the sales side, in terms of selling programs, be it through our media line of business or our agency line of business, but also we can measure it again on the back end to see, did our campaign have any impact or lift? And if so, how do we quantify it based on those products and brands?
Do you mean sort of like AWS sort of becomes synonymous with the cloud, or Salesforce is synonymous with CRMs? Like, is that what you mean by how the brand becomes a topic?
Exactly. Yeah. And Salesforce is obviously a super large example, but yeah, you can search for, you can look at and include topics like, CRM systems and who's looking for CRM systems, in addition to who's looking for Salesforce, right? So in my world, in the B2B tech space, that's extremely common. The products and services, the software solutions that we promote are oftentimes, and sometimes the brand is the product as well. We see a lot of that as well. So we always include that when we're looking at and choosing the intent topics that we want to measure. And that also applies to competitors, right? So it offers, a unique opportunity for like kind of competitive conquesting, right? Where we can find and identify those that might be looking for our clients' competitors and, disrupt them with a bigger value statement, or to put our client or partner into that consideration with some messaging that are around targeting people that are considering a competitive product or service.
So both of your companies have been using this data for a very long time, but as you look forward over the next 12 to 18 months, are there any new opportunities that you see for this data to evolve, if at all? Like, are there new things that are starting to pop up on the horizon that you think is going to make this intent information even more impactful? We'll start with you, Allison.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think sounds like Jeffrey's already doing it, but I think the integration with our AI platforms is going to be really exciting, to just be able to access some of these insights quicker. And then for us, we're really excited to try to kind of draw this out just more across our full business. So it's been really digital focused. Like, how do we get that more in the lead gen space, to Jeff's point, the event space? How do we create those touch points in every single product or platform that we're using, connect it back to really be able to tell, because we have a lot of cross-platform sales, and we want to be able to tell that like full cross-platform story about the audience, the what we're reaching, the topics that we're covering, what our audience is interested in. So that, I think, is what I'm most excited about, and what we're going to be focusing on for the next couple months / year.
Again, not unlike Forbes, but like specific to us, we see a lot of it. Again, we're always looking at intent data coupled with AI and what we can do and what models we can create. So using intent data to help identify when a brand might be considering dropping out of a partner program, right? And us being able to watch for that, monitor that, quantify that. What are the signals? Intent data can be part of the signals that identify who and why a partner might be looking to kind of potentially leave a partner program. And AI can help quantify, to create a variety of messages to help offset that, or to get partner teams to be more reactive to that. So it's not like, for us, intent data and AI is also kind of more our expansion and our growth is going to be more in the business aspects of it, and being more informed, more strategic partners with our clients to help identify those business things outside of just the marketing effort, right? And the more we can help our clients identify who makes great partners for a particular partner, helping to identify those that might be there might be a threat. That's where I'm really excited about when it comes to intent data and AI, is positioning the channel company as a better and better and a better partner for all things partner related, even outside of just marketing.
So you both are very happy in your jobs, but let's say you got a new job working for, I don't know, a media company many, many years younger than yours, significantly smaller than yours. Let's say it serves, I don't know, media professionals, right? It's about 6 years old, and they use no intent data whatsoever. And so you join, your job is to help them get that intent data kind of incorporated into the business. How would you do that? Jeff, we're going to
For a friend, right, Jacob?
asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. All right. First of all, I love working for the channel company. And
let's just say, like, $1 million lands on your lap. You can't say no. Like, what would you do?
I have this conversation a lot with a lot of our clients, right? You always have to kind of remember that we're all consumers to a certain extent, right? So yes, we're consuming content for our particular professional responsibilities. We're looking for application performance monitoring software, but we're also looking for, the next series on Netflix to watch, or a new dentist, right? So we're always, looking for and consuming content. And so, I often remind people to make sure that they're not far away from putting themselves in the shoes of a buyer, right? If you're aware of how you might how you go about finding information, right? Like Google is still the call to action of all marketing, right? And this question of whether that will start to shift to ChatGPT or to Claude as the call to action, but I often remind people about how to think about how they interact with this as well. And I would, remind them that, again, the brands, the company names, the product names are intent topics. It's bigger than just the theme, and so to remember to, include those when you're looking at casting a net of the intent topics that you might be using within your media company.
Yeah, I would +1 everything Jeff said, but also I think a small publication with a very targeted group for an audience is so valuable, because you're already getting that very, very specific audience. And so just the more you can break that down, the more smaller, nuanced categories you can create, which you likely have a ton of access into. That's where you start collecting intent, and hopefully you can partner with a bigger company to get some of that data as well. But I mean, as a owner of a media business, like, you are sitting on the insights that your customers want. So I think it's really just, how do you break that down? How do you create a taxonomy that is different and is unique and can show your partners the value that they're getting?
And I would just add one other point, like, and stay on top of it, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to our event, the event example that I said earlier, through our partnership with Bombora, that event identified over 60 new intent topics for the Bombora taxonomy, our single event. So in the future releases from Bombora are going to be net new topics that co-op members like the channel company or Forbes have identified and put into that system. So it's not just index levels that go up and down, it's the depth and width of the topics. And so you have to like stay on top of it. It's not a set it and forget it. You have to constantly pay attention to it and look for those kind of nuances, those niche terms that can really have a big impact in terms of, you know, success or failure.
Well, Allison, Jeff, that is all the time we have for today. Every time I do one of these webinars, I am shocked with how fast it goes. Normally they're 40 minutes, but we went 6 minutes over because the information was so good and I can't help but get some free consulting from people smarter than me. So thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you to Bombora for making this webinar possible. If it wasn't clear already, both Forbes and the channel company use Bombora to help give them a lot of those data intent signals that they need. So if you're a publisher, I encourage you to head over to bombora.com to learn more about their data co-op. If you're thinking about attending the AMO Summit, we just announced today that Katie Couric is speaking. So be sure to get your tickets because prices do increase next week. And Bombora will be there. They've been a great partner for the past couple of years. This will be a great chance for you to meet their team here in New York. And finally, if you have any thoughts or questions, please don't hesitate to email me, jacob@amediaoperator.com. Jeff, Allison, thank you both so much. And for
Thank
everyone
you.
else,
Thank you, Jacob.
have a great rest of your day. See you soon.
Cheers.